Oh, and that's a brilliant effort. And they've turned it right around. In the space of a few minutes, Saudi Arabia grab control of the game.
Welcome to the latest episode of Dawri, the Saudi football podcast, which looks at the results and developments from our beloved Saudi Pro League. And this week, at the start of the 2026 World Cup and 2027 Asian Cup qualifiers as well. So much on the horizon. With me, as always, is our new sport editor, Ali Khaled, while our man in Riyadh, giving us our regular updates and dispatches, Khaled Al-Arafah. He'll be giving us his latest as well. Ali, it's rare that we don't have midweek matches to look back on. It is, of course, the case that we're heading into the last international break of 2023. But before we look ahead to those matches involving Saudi Arabia and the rest of the Arab teams, what were your personal highlights from last week's round of SPL?
Hi, Peter. Good to see you again, mate. Good to be back for another episode. Look, I think last week's matches, went as expected, really. We looked at Al-Hilal hosting the high-flying surprise of the season, Al-Ta'awan, as probably the match of the week. And we predicted, as well as Al-Ta'awan have been playing, really punching above their weight, we thought Al-Hilal would win. I think I predicted 2-1 to Al-Hilal. They won 2-0 with goals from Mohamed Kanu, who's brilliant, one of my favorite players. And the second by who else? I'll let you say it, Peter, as he's one of your old favorites.
Mitro's on fire. Alexander Mitrovic.
Yeah, absolutely. He is on fire. Yeah, and he's been on fire for a while now. What a season he's having. 10 goals in 11 appearances. Only one man has scored more goals. No prizes for guessing. It's Cristiano Ronaldo with 13. And speaking of Cristiano, Al-Nassr continued their amazing form, really. Run of form. They beat Al-Wahda 3-1. Goals from Telles, Al-Amri, and Ronaldo himself. So, look, Al-Hilal remain top, unbeaten with 35 points. Al-Nassr are second, 4 points behind. Pete, we said this could turn into a two-horse race quickly if the other teams aren't careful. Well, a bit of a gap is starting to develop with the rest. Al-Ahli are third, but they're 5 points behind Al-Nassr after dropping points in the 2-2 against Damak, which we mentioned last week. So, look, that gap is starting to develop between the top two and the rest. At the moment, no one can touch Al-Hilal and Al-Nassr. Looking really, really strong.
Look, we had a big segment last week, major news to talk about on the show, which was the sacking of Nuno Santo. But there was better news on the horizon for the champions over the weekend after his departure.
Yeah, indeed. I wouldn't call it a new manager bounce, as they were still without a manager, but Ittihad beat Abha 4-2. With Karim Benzema scoring a hat-trick. Last week we mentioned about the altercation he had with Santo in the last in Santo's last match, which is in the Champions League. And Benzema had complained about Santo previously to the management, saying he's not the right man for the job. So Santo leaves and Benzema scores a hat-trick in the 4-2 win. So maybe he had a point. We'll see how things pan out. Al-Ittihad are now in fifth, but they're still 11 points behind Al-Hilal. That's a massive, massive difference at this point for the champions. There's a rumor that the Argentine coach, Marcelo Gallardo, who used to be with River Plate, of course, very successful at River Plate, could be in line to take over at Ittihad. But at the time of recording this, Peter, right now, nothing's been confirmed. So finally, a quick mention of Ittifaq, another 0-0 draw for Steven Gerrard's team, struggling for goals without the injured Moussa Dembele. As the coach himself admitted, he said, we're really, really struggling without strikers. We need a striker. They're now in seventh. They're not playing too badly, but their form has leveled off a little bit since that great start to the season.
Okay, time to shift our attention to the international scene, and we start with Arab news reporter Khaled Al-Arafah giving us the latest from the Saudi national team camp in Riyadh. Over to you, Khaled.
Hi, Ali. Hi, Peter. How are you guys? So we're in the FIFA days. Let me give you a brief of the Saudi football national team camp. This camp is in Al-Ahsa. It comes in preparation for the first and second rounds of the Asian qualifiers for the 2026 World Cup and the 2027 Asian Cup. The Saudis are going to play 2 matches. First one is going to be against Pakistan on November 16th at Al-Fateh Club Stadium. It's a new stadium that just opened a couple of weeks ago. And the second one is going to be against Jordan in Amman on the 21st of November. As we can see, Ali, that Mancini this time added to the list a lot of new names, which is their first time to join the Saudi national team. And as well, there are a couple of names that they were missing. For example, we don't see Sultan Al-Ghannam, one of the best players from Al-Nassr, and as well Mohammed Kanu, one of the best players in Al-Hilal. And we don't see Firas Al-Braykan, one of the best strikers in Saudi Arabia. Probably he's testing the players, or he's trying to build a new team. We're just gonna wait and see. And one of the biggest problems that just happened 2 days ago, Salim Dawri just left the camp after he didn't feel well in his ankle. He was injured in the last match for Al-Hilal against Al-Ta'awun, and the doctor of the Saudi national team said that he's not able to play these 2 matches. So they decided to let the player go back to Al-Hilal, where the doctor of Al-Hilal will take care of him. And that's it. I'll get back to you, Ali and Peter, after the first match, and I'll give you another brief of the match, and after the media, what are they going to say after that match. Bye and take care.
Okay, it's time to introduce our guest, and who better to give us his expert opinion on the region's national teams than Matt Monaghan. Matt, welcome back to the show.
Hi guys, how's it going?
Great.
Matt, mate, good to see you again. Obviously, Saudi Arabia's kick off their World Cup / AFC Asian Cup qualifiers against Pakistan. I mean, we've been talking in recent weeks about the difficult start Mancini's had, and but surely they must beat Pakistan in their opener. What are your take on that?
I mean, what a story it would be if they didn't. I mean, Pakistan, obviously, they are making history getting this far. Obviously, a squad that is completely cobbled together as well. No, I think with Saudi Arabia, obviously, win is an absolute must. It's more than expected. And I feel that Mancini's basically made a calculated gamble. If you look at the squad selected, I think up to 18 players either have no caps or less than 10 caps. No Salam Al-Dawsri because of injuries. That's a chance maybe some other guys to step up to the plate. And for the big nations in across Asia, the second round is basically a chance that you're probably not going to be in a group that's going to really test you too hard. You're going to progress. So it's a chance to maybe experiment here and there. I think with Mancini now, it's all about building momentum. He's really stuttered out the starting blocks, hasn't he? And now, win today. And then, there is a much tougher game to come against Jordan. Obviously, Musa Al-Tamari has been one of the better players in European football so far this season. So that'll be a test. It's never easy going to Jordan, as nations like Australia can attest to. But yeah, I think these are, on paper, they're easier fixtures than some of the friendlies that Mancini has faced against the likes of Nigeria and South Korea.
Yeah, I mean, just going on Mancini's matches so far, I mean, the same problems that we've been mentioning over and over, which is a lack of firepower. They are struggling, and losing Salim Al-Dawsri so close to the qualifiers shouldn't be a problem against Pakistan, but it is still a problem, because they rely on him, or sometimes over rely on him for goals, and so they really should get the 3 points without many problems against Pakistan. But you never count anything in football, and also that lack of firepower, if it persists, would be a problem against Jordan.
Yeah, I think what is intriguing, if you look at the selection, is some of the guys that are not here. You've got Abdullah Hamdan is not here, and most glaringly, Firas Al-Barakan is not here. When you talk about firepower, he'll be the Saudi Arabian player that's scored by far the most goals in Russian Saudi League over the last 2 seasons. He's featured in friendlies before under Mancini. Is not here this time. So it's a big call, isn't it? I mean, if you look at that, the options in attack, Salah Al-Shefi, obviously only ever a bit part player at Al-Hilal. And then the youngsters like Talal Haji, Mohamed Maran. I think he's really trying to he's trying to discover that player, isn't he, who can maybe provide a regular source of goals up top. And it's intriguing. I find it a really bold call what he's made up top.
Yeah, Matt, I mean, you mentioned Atamari of Jordan, moving on to the Jordan match next Tuesday. You mentioned Atamari, who's really sort of performing at a very high level in Europe. We'll assume, Mancini will work on his defense. They don't concede much. And, like any Italian coach worth his salt, they'll be organized, they'll be strong defensively, but they really got to beware of Atamari, especially in Amman, where they're going to get the fans behind them. You already mentioned not an easy place to go. That could be a really tough match.
Mancini, I think if you look at Mancini's playing career and managerial career, he's someone he might be Italian by birth, but he's not Italian by nature, I guess, when it comes to the traditional image of Italian football. And we've seen that so far with Saudi Arabia. Off the top of my head, obviously, I'll go straight to the Nigeria game. There was some very interesting defending and goalkeeping in the match. And I think what's a positive for Mancini, it has to be a positive for now and maybe for the next decade or so, is that Nawaf Al-Akidi's here, he's available. And I think that's someone who can develop into the best goalkeeper in Asia. I think he really does have that potential. So that could be the start of a new era coming with the games this month.
Matt, in contrast to Mancini's difficult start, shall we say? I mean, they were all friendlies, but still, there's no wins yet. 3 losses, 1 draw. In contrast, Bento for the UAE has had a good start. Again, they have been friendlies, but if you are going to play friendlies, then you'd want them to be wins, So they must, the UAE must go into this campaign quite buoyant. And again, we've spoken about this on this show. You have, Matt, in that, in the end, the UAE came relatively close in the last campaign without being an excellent team. Really, they had not really performed at too much of a high level, but they still came relatively close for losing to Australia. They must be thinking this time. 48 teams, they're going to be in with a chance.
I think UAE football just seems to be in a much better position than it was at this time in 2019. We've seen in the Champions League, Al Ain and Sharjah are doing so well. Shabab Al Ali obviously put Al-Nassr through the ringer, didn't they, in the playoffs? So I think there really has been a step up in quality with the UAE. And what is, I say, with the most intriguing aspect for the UAE is the time span. So I think during this whole process, you've got the team that starts now under Paolo Bento, but over the next, 18 months, in about 18 months' time, you could have a whole raft of naturalised players that become eligible, which I think I'll have to look at the timings for that. It depends when the passports were issued, etc. But they are players that could really change the dial in UAE football in the third round of qualifying. So it's all about getting in good condition and good shape under Paolo Bento, who's had an excellent start, including, I think the headline result was obviously the 4-1 victory against Costa Rica, who had Keylor Navas in goal. So it was a strong Costa Rica team. And yeah, I just think Bento is I think he's a solid coach at this level. I think he had the record length of tenure with South Korea. He left on very warm terms with South Korea. He knows Asian football. He'll know the task at hand, and he's made it a very impressive start so far. And he's got a lovely introduction to competitive games coming up. We've got Nepal at home, and then a reasonably strong test against Bahrain away. And they get through those two. I think UAE football can feel it's really on the up.
Matt, you mentioned some of those players that could, in 18 months' time, when it gets to the serious business of the third round, could be representing the UAE. Give us a couple of names.
Yes, I think the standout one for me, I'll pick Eric, who is the left back for Al Ain. Brazilian, he came for International, so you'll get much better schooling than that. He's an absolute machine on the flank. Also, his club mate as well, Kwame Otone, someone who the Ivory Coast have been looking at, and he is instead decided to go through the naturalised route. Al Wassel, Jimenez, he should also be, I think, coming online in 2025. He's been one of the best players in Adnot Pro League this season. Al Wassel team that are right at the top of the table. He's a wonderfully inventive Argentine playmaker who loves running with the ball at his feet. And there's just so many names I could reel off. It's been a real noticeable strategy change, a long-term strategy change. And that's something the UEFA have been criticised for amongst local media here is maybe thinking too short-term, a lack of long-term planning, even medium-term planning. But if you look at what they've done with naturalised players in the last 3 or so years, they very much looked at the system, looked at how they can make the most out of it, and they've brought online plenty of young players of real promise who can, really switch the vision of where this team can go to.
Great. And moving on to Qatar, I mean, again, Carlos Queiroz, not a great start. And what's your take on Qatar?
I think with Qatar, so they play plenty of games, don't they? They always do that. And Queiroz has already got lots of games under his belt, even though he's been in situ for less than a year. The one for Queiroz, I guess, is you look at the last result, which was a real thumping by his former team, Iran. And Qatar, it's just the feeling now is, I think there's such a deflation around Qatar's performance at the World Cup. Their two star players were actually, I would say, from my opinion, were the two worst players for Qatar. Akram Afif and Almoez Ali were dreadful at the World Cup. If you look at the Expo Stars League this season, Almoez Ali and Akram Afif are right near the top of the standings for goal scorers and assists. They're back amongst Queiroz' selection now. And I guess the talent is there for Qatar. You just wonder, have they got the ability to join the real heavyweights of Asian football? If they can repeat again, if they can actually qualify for a World Cup on merit, we will see in the next few years. And for me, you've still got the likes of Al-Hilal in midfield. I think he's someone I respect a great deal. I thought he's one of the few players from Qatar that came out of the World Cup with any form of credit. And now it's whether can Almoez Ali and Akram Afif step up to the plate again and deliver on the youthful promise and deliver on obviously the wonderful performances we saw at 2019 in the Asian Cup. We've got an Asian Cup coming up on home soil for Qatar as well. Let's not forget in about a month and a half time. So this is an intriguing period. I guess the thing with Queiroz as well is he's got a very singular approach to coaching. We know all the stories, what he's about. Anyone who watched the David Beckham documentary recently on Netflix would have got a taste of what Carlos Queiroz is about. So it's whether the Qatar players buy into his methods like the Iran players did.
Yeah, and look, I mean, the Qatar's first two matches are Afghanistan at home and then India away. You really think, they've got to get 6 points out of those.
Yeah, I mean, they got to. But I would say, obviously, Stimac is doing a decent job of India. You never know there. But let's just see. I mean, it has to, again, I think for all the nations we're talking about at this stage of World Cup qualifying, you should be the heavy favourite going into almost every fixture. I think there's only one group that looks tough. I think that's China's group with Thailand in it and a few other nations. That's the only group which looks like there's any real form of jeopardy in it.
Yeah, just looking elsewhere very quickly regarding the Arab teams, Palestine and Lebanon play each other here in the UAE.
It's a derby match, isn't it? It's impossible to comment on how the players are going to enter that game. It's just, there's just obviously, we all know the situation going on there, how that affects the team. Can these players focus on football? That's also both nations as well. It's both nations who are involved. So I think this is one of the things that football seems to serve up so often, where nations are pitted together, where it's more than a game to them at that present time. And it's a really intriguing match. Let's see what happens.
Great, Matt. Thank you so much as always.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Well said, Matt. Hey, Matt, you can't escape just yet. I always let you. He's trying to get away, Ali, but he knows I've got a quiz coming for him. He knows I've got a question for him. Listen, we'll leave you with this little belter. 45 foreign players from the SPL have been called up by their national teams. Only one team didn't send a single player. Which team?
Which team?
It's not one single foreign player.
Not one single foreign player.
Out of the 45 foreign players from
making it more difficult for
No, you said
this is right. This is really. I'm not googling the thing. I'm gonna Google the table. I need a reminder. So, if I was to guess, Al Riyadh.
Incorrect, mate.
Okay.
It's you're going to be surprised. It's the champions Al-Ittihad.
No, wow. That is
interesting.
That is a fantastic question.
Yeah, N'Golo Kante was not. Not yeah. N'Golo Kante was a nice one, Peter.
A good one.
Yeah. So they're the only.
Obviously, all the big hitters have retired, haven't they?
Yeah, Al-Nassr and Damak, both the highest with 5 players each.
Yeah, I think the thing with that as well is that you look at the actual players at Al-Nassr. I mean, it's again, I think it's a testament to the strength of the Saudi league that the players that have been called up from the nations are huge hitters in big international teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant to see the effervescent Matt Monaghan back with us. We'll speak to you soon, Matt. Ali, as usual, will leave you with the last word, of course, to the sports editor himself. But there's a catch with that last word. It means that we need predictions for Saudi's 2 games from you.
So, obviously, we already mentioned Saudi's first match against Pakistan at home. I can't see nothing else would be acceptable but 3 points. Should be a comfortable Saudi win. I know they've struggled for goals, but I'm expecting a comfortable win. I'm going to say Saudi 4, Pakistan 0. The second match, however, is really, really tough. I can see it being, I'm not going to call it a banana skin, but could be a banana skin for the Saudis. I still think if they play, especially on the back of a win against Pakistan, if they go to Jordan and they play to their potential, they should get something from the game. I'm going to go for a narrow win for the Saudis, 1-0, but that's going to be a really, really tough one.
A win's a win, but they are needed, Ali, and we'll keep our fingers crossed, of course. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week when we get back to our SPL action. From all of us here, have a great sporting weekend.